We are on to the final class of Whizbang's Workshop, which is Warrior. What would Warrior be without Dr. Boom? Whizbang's Workshop is a throwback to Hearthstone classics, which of course includes Dr. Boom. This is Inventor Boom, 8 cost minion, 7/7, of course. Battlecry: resurrect 2 friendly mechs that cost 5 or more. They immediately attack random enemies. So this is pretty wild. Mechs that cost 5 or more can include the new Ziliax, who is sick, by the way. We'll get to him in neutrals. It's a little bit sad to me that this is 8 when Boom was, historically Doctor 7. Now it's 8. But this is, I just think you can control this pretty well, because it is 5 or more, so you can very easily have like a pretty limited pool that this will bring back that can be quite powerful cards. Them immediately dying, that you'll get death rattles from them, which can be quite powerful. They can be used as a finisher to like hit your opponent in the face with giant minions. Overall, just clearly a pretty powerful card from a value perspective. Again, with like things like death rattles, and from a burst perspective by just being able to connect with your opponent's face. So let's take a look at one of the really powerful things you could potentially get off of that, which is Bot Face. 9 cost. I guess this isn't that good because it doesn't death rattle. But this is a powerful mech that you can get. If it does attack you, it's X random enemies, so it doesn't necessarily go face. So this would be potentially a very powerful thing if it hits your opponent's minions. But 9 costs. This is obviously a throwback to Rot Face. 3/9 taunt. After this takes damage, get 2 random minis. So this can get you a bunch of minis from other classes. It is random, so this gets you 1/1s. Oh, did they not die? I thought they died. Hold on, let's take a look. Yeah, this is. Oh, for whatever reason, I thought Boom was they immediately attack random enemies and then die. They don't. Holy cow. Okay, Inventor Boom's gross. Even grosser with Bot Face. So yeah, if you have a bot face that's died, and yeah, you can just get this, which maybe attacks into a minion and then sticks around as a giant taunt they have to get through to give you more minis. But yeah, this can give you, there's tons of powerful minis. Obviously, some of them can be situational, like the Death Knight one that gives you +2 to your undead. But even like, just the Druid one that spell damage or draw a card. The Priest one, which is a taunt that gives you a elusive guy off death rattle. There's just a lot of powerful things that this can potentially get you. This can be, maybe this is like top end of a taunt warrior deck that gives you some value once you've sort of tried to survive to that point. Yeah, overall, just I think it's a sweet card that can do some wild stuff. I guess in standard, which is a crazy place to do wild things. Next up, we have Boom Wrench. This is an interesting one because this is a mini. It's a weapon with miniaturize, which is the only one that we've seen. Everything else has been a minion, but 4 cost 3/2 with miniaturize, so you get a 1/1 copy of the weapon afterwards, but has death rattle. Trigger the death rattle of a random friendly mech. So obviously, mech is a pretty heavy theme of this set for Warrior. Inventor Boom cares about it. This cares about it, and be able to trigger death rattles of friendly mechs. What are the death rattles we have for possible friendly mechs? Well, Fireworker, 5 cost 5/5 mech. Death rattle summon 2 1/1 Boom bots. So this is obviously a throwback to the original Doctor Boom, but if you have the wrench with this, you can get a board full of Boom bots. You have your original wrench. You play your you can even just like play the original wrench, right? Attack with it on 4. Maybe you have the coin. You play this guy on 5. Coin, play the miniaturized wrench, which triggers the death rattle of the original wrench, which gives you 2 boom bots, which then you attack with this, you get 2 more boom bots, and this dies more boom bots. Boom! So many bots. You do have to keep in mind that the boom wrench can potentially just trigger the death rattle of the boom bots if you have those in play because they are mechs. But crucially, Inventor Boom specifically summons things that cost 5 or more. So Fireworker is a very powerful thing that Dr. Boom can summon to then give you more things with the bots that you can summon. And boom, summon, bot, boom! Aptly named with Inventor Boom. Next up, Chemical Spill. This is a very interesting card. 5 cost spell, summon the highest cost minion from your hand, then deal 5 damage to it. So this is obviously for like a big warrior deck. Can be powerful with bot face, right? This can, you summon a bot face, you end up with a, what, 3/4 taunt that gives you immediately 2 minis. You can use this with Grom, right? You can just chemical spell a Grom into play. Grom's your biggest thing. Suddenly you have a 5-cost Grom that's immediately enraged. There's lots of stuff that you could potentially do with this. You could use this with, there's like new Deathwing is around, right? Like the 8-cost 12/12 that attacks everything. You could, spend 5 to get a 12/7 effectively. A lot of stuff. A lot of stuff that you can potentially do with this. Let's take a look at, for instance, this one. So this is a 6-cost mech with taunt and death rattle. Deal 8 damage randomly split among all enemies. You could, for 5 mana, get this guy into play, do 5 to it, and then boom, you have a, what, 4/3 taunt. Not very exciting, off the chemical spell. But this is another big taunt you could potentially get into play with Dr. Boom, or Inventor Boom rather, for your sort of big mech deck, which can potentially also use Quality Assurance. 2-cost spell, draw 2 taunt minions. I loved playing taunt warrior in sort of some periods during the last set. It is unfortunate that while this card is entering the metagame, we are losing our Megadillo from the core set. So our Megadillo was one of the really sweet cards that could enable powerful, hugely statted taunt minions in that deck. But this giving you the ability to have card draw in a class that had frequently, or at least an archetype that had frequently struggled with it. This could be extremely powerful off of, say, Black Rock and Roll. Is Black Rock and Roll still around? Black Rock and Roll was that from? I assume that was from Festival of Legends. It sounds like it was from Festival of Legends. So I guess you couldn't use the Steam Elemental plus Black Rock and Roll plus this effectively though. But yeah, this is a very solid card for a taunt package. That can enable you to find specific things even once you've gotten like your powder men and I forget the 3/4 the one-shotter Megadillo is called. But yeah, being able to assemble a bunch of taunts into your hand to buff with those can be quite effective, and ensuring that you're not like running low on resources when you are expending your stuff to buff your things. Next up, we have Safety Goggles. This is a weird card. 2-cost spell, gain 6 armor, cost 0 if you don't have any armor. I'm not really sure where this wants to go. Right? Like this feels like a card that like probably has some sort of specific home where you really want to have like armor hit to a specific armor threshold, but I don't know where this is, right? Like where this wants to be. Obviously like things that trigger off of gaining armor, like maybe use this with like Flesh Shaper, right? I guess but Flesh Shaper I think was from March, right? So you can't Flesh Shaper with this. You could use it with, you could theoretically use it with like Odin, but you can only use one of these with Odin for like, 6 armor. I guess you can use it with this guy, right? Lab Patron. Like you could play Lab Patron on 4 and then just immediately play the goggles to gain armor so you get another Lab Patron. And if your opponents can't kill both Lab Patrons, you just start going nuts by just gaining armor. It's probably where it goes. Right? It makes sense that these guys care about goggles because they have goggles on in the art, right? I guess he has like, no, look, it's more like a monocle rather than goggles in the art. Clearly he needs goggles, and that's why you want the goggles to the Lab Patron. So yeah, clearly Safety Goggles, something of a combo card. Lab Patron, a throwback to Grim Patron. And this one, like I said, it could be used with anything that really gains armor. You can use it with the weapon. You can like coin the weapon into Lab Patron if you don't have the goggles, which clearly do not do nothing. But yeah, pretty cool. And our final class card of the entire set, Recommendecum. 3-cost, choose a friendly mech, summon a copy of it that attacks a random enemy, then dies. So this is another thing that cares about like death rattle. Big mechs, death rattle mechs can work pretty well with the testing dummy that we saw moments ago. Could work pretty well with a fireworker. We could play both those in the same turn as well. You could play like testing dummy into Recommendecum, attacks a random enemy, then does 8 damage because it dies to random enemies. Also means that you have an extra minion in your pool, extra big mech to be able to resummon with Inventor Boom as well. It can also be used with Ziliax, who we'll get to in just a moment when we get to neutrals, which is the end of the card review. But overall, I think pretty clearly Warrior is very heavily leaning into the Doctor Boom theme, the mech theme. Obviously, the Inventor Boom is really the standout card here, alongside the various big mechs that support it. I do think Lab Patron is an interesting card alongside Safety Goggles and like Craftsman's Hammer to be able to like try and run away with the game if your opponents can't deal with them right away. But feels like it's more of a gimmick, and the sort of strength of Warrior really lies in the Inventor Boom plus Big Mech package, and that's where I would start if I were looking to build Warrior decks with Whizbang's Workshop. All right, we are in the home stretch with neutrals, so let's check them out. First up, we have Bucket of Soldiers. I do like this from a thematic perspective. It's like the toy of just like a bunch of soldiers in the bucket. Mechanically, 3 cost, 0/2, Death Rattle, summon 5 1/1 soldiers with random bonus effects. It seems pretty bad. Like maybe in a world where like there were still infused cards, and one thing like this that could give you so many death triggers for infuse could be good, but it's too difficult to make it work. And without any additional synergies with the soldiers or the bucket, any sort of minion types or anything, I just don't really expect this to see play. Next up, Card Grader, a 3 cost 2/4 Naga battlecry. If you cast a spell while holding this, discover a card from your deck. This is like just a pretty solid card. If you're playing like like any deck that is using spells in the early turns and is looking for some additional consistency, this card just seems very powerful. It's basically just like tracking attached to a body. Obviously, you're not getting like a copy of a spell or a copy of a card in your deck. It's just getting you a card in your deck. I could very easily see this being played in, say, like spell powered druid, where you're trying to assemble, whatever sort of combo, and you're looking to play the 1 cost location, the 2 cost spell that gives you a card in your deck and a copy, and then this gives you another card in your deck, and just piecing everything together. So this is definitely a card that feels like in sort of more combo-oriented decks that have a heavy spell focus could certainly be a very popular inclusion in a lot of those decks. Next up, Caricature Artist. 4 cost 3/4. Battlecry, draw a minion that costs 5 or more, give it a funny mustache. The funny mustache is clearly the most powerful part of this card, because your opponent will be, they'll be stun locked from laughing at the hilarious mustache that's on your minion. This is, because this is Battlecry, draw a minion that costs 5 or more, anything that is like a targeted tutor style effect can have potential. I don't think this is likely to be like a common like metagame card, because it's relatively inefficient. But like if you're playing a deck that is like looking to again like assemble specific cards for a specific combination of cards, I could very easily see this being just like kind of an extra copy of something that you're trying to find like your key card for your deck, and this being just like another way to easily find it. Does feel like if you're playing like again like say you're playing the spell power druid, right? This can be another way you can find your boomkin legendary, and ensure that you're able to like get the pieces together to go off. Next up, Clearance Promoter. Death Rattle, reduce the cost of 2 spells in your hand by 1. 3 cost 3/2. I could maybe see this being something that's like used in some sort of combo deck to try to set up a combo kill that couldn't otherwise work. But as a 3 cost 3/2, it's like just so fragile, and the need to play it and have it die before you get the effect seems like it is pretty likely to be difficult to consistently use. Certainly like a Sith style OTK deck, maybe this ends up being something that like in a certain style of metagame is worth playing. But overall, it seems like it's too slow and too fragile to be a consistent performer. Next up, we have Colifero the Artist, which is a card that we've had a chance to play with already, so we kind of have a decent sense of how powerful it is and what it can do. I have played with this deck and with this card and against this card, and it can certainly do some really powerful things. You can, as long as you're playing a deck that has the ability to generate a significant number of minions that are not from minion cards, and then plays largely really expensive high impact minions as the rest of your deck. I've gotten like a board full of Ametases with a paladin deck off a bunch of Silverhand recruits. I've gotten a bunch of Stoneborn generals off of various treants and tokens and things like that. So this is a very, very swingy card. If you can actually get to the stage of the game where you have this, still have your big minions in your deck, and can generate a bunch of small minions, this could be a really, really powerful card for sure. So I don't know if it's necessarily consistent enough to be a high tier metagame contender, but it's definitely sweet, that's for sure. One at one point said in reviews I was a sleeper. But this actually doesn't get to be a sleeper because it was available as part of the pre-order bundle. I know that that was a controversial thing, and there was a lot of people who were upset, even just upset with me for playing decks featuring Corridor Sleeper when I got it from the pre-order bundle. And I can totally understand if this were like a powerful meta-breaking card, that it being available through a pre-order thing could be a negative experience for everyone who did not pre-order. But I think this is mostly just like not great. It's mostly a meme. It's neat, but I think that it is worse than pretty much all the other options you have, for the decks that were playing it at the time. So, while I completely respect people's frustration with the idea of Hearthstone being pay to win, with the existence of Quarter Sleeper in the pre-orders, and frankly, I do sort of hope that if Blizzard does continue that trend, that they do it with more like quirky cards like this and not things that people are seriously interested in getting to allow them to actually climb the ladder. Because I would not be happy to see pre-order bundles contain cards that people really feel compelled that they need in order to be competitive. So this certainly proved not to be that, and I had fun playing it for about a day and then never played it again. And don't really expect that it'll play it much when Nathria comes out, except maybe in like a token beast style deck where it certainly could have a home then. Speaking of token beast, here's an Oko. Next up we have contestant. Next we have cosplay contestant. 3 cost 3/4. After your opponent plays a minion, transform into a 3/4 copy of it. We've come a long way from like the legendary 5/6 that turned into whatever your opponent played. This at least remains a 3/4. So this is interesting. Like this is a card that maybe your opponent has something that has like a major drawback or something, and they can play it and screw you over. But overall, this could be like kind of an interesting card that maybe like it is powerful in a world of strong death rattles or other sort of like passive effects. This can like throw your opponent off from being able to effectively use the cards that they want on curve. Probably not good enough. But this is like the first version of this that is like, oh, maybe this is actually worth playing. Next up, we have Factory Assembly Bot, a 10 cost 6/7 with Miniaturize. At the end of your turn, summon a 6/7 bot that attacks a random enemy. Yeah, this is 10 mana, and you get the Miniaturize version. This could be a very powerful card with like Doctor Boom if you're playing if you're playing Doctor Boom mech control. This can be a really strong thing to get back. You get a couple of these back, and you get the 6/7s that then give you more 6/7s that attack your opponent immediately, and you can do like 24 to your opponent, basically off of the Doctor Boom trigger if you just had 2 of these. That's sick. But you also had to have the other things, like the 6/7s will potentially pollute the Doctor Boom pool, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, the miniaturize is definitely a very appealing part of this because you now get a second shot at just like a 6/7 bot that goes face that you can pair with removal to clear your opponent's board and and nuke them. 10 is just a lot of mana, right? I think that this is obviously a really high impact card, but you need to be when you cost 10 mana, and I'm not sure this is good enough. Next up is Floppy Hydra. 3 cost 2/4 Beast. Death Metal, summon a copy of this, or shuffle a copy of this into your deck with permanently doubled attack and health. I like this card a lot. I'm a sucker for these sort of things. It's probably not good. It does sound like it keeps any kind of buffs on it, but so if you have like messenger buzzard or whatever, and you're able to messenger buzzard this and make it huge, and then it will continue to get bigger and bigger. It's a cool Hydra thematics, right? Like Hydras are typically known for double the heads come back when you cut one off, etc. But yeah, I think this is a neat card for potentially like a hand buff style deck that is looking for ways to have a powerful late game. But again, this can get silenced, this can get renode even against control decks. You're gonna struggle to really get value off of this because it doesn't do anything immediately when it comes into play. It's just like a long-term value proposition of shuffling things into your deck. which the matchups where that matters are ones that they typically have ways to answer this sort of thing anyway, but I'm certainly going to just try and see the biggest Hydra I can get, because that's fun in itself. Next up, we have Forgotten Animatronic, 5-cost 4/6 mech. At the end of your turn, destroy a minion with less attack than this. This is a cool card. Like, this could be like like a neat like card in like a control deck that, you know, like maybe you can hand buff this. I don't know. Maybe you can like, but like this feels like you can just kind of take over a game, right? Like, especially with magnetic effects, right? You can like magnetic to this, and it's just like starts nuking huge things. I don't know that this card's actually good. It's clearly the art, at least, and I'm told, I believe the flavor text are like a Friday night, Five Nights at Freddy's reference, which I've never played or seen, but it's gonna just stock all their things and kill them, which I maybe that's part of the plot. I don't know, but I think this is like, you know, definitely a more powerful than the average like neutral 5-drop. That's for sure. Next up, we have Gift Wrap Whelp. Battlecry, if you're holding a dragon, give it and this minion +1/+1. So in a dragon heavy deck, this is a 1-cost 3/2 that buffs another minion in your hand. That's quite powerful. I feel like this is, you know, like, I'd rather have a 2/3, right? I think I'd rather have this be a 1/2 that becomes a 2/3 and buffs something else in my hand if I'm playing, say, like Dragon Priest. But this is definitely a very, very exciting card for any kind of dragon focused deck. Just, you know, a lot of stats right away, both for both on the board and the bonus stats in your hand. Just feels really, really good. So this is definitely a very appealing card, certainly to me as a dragon aficionado. Next up, we have Giggling Toymaker. Remember Giggling Inventor? Now Giggling Inventor is going into toy making. Already invented. But this is just Giggling Inventor, but with one fewer mech, and one fewer mana. Yeah, 4-cost 2/1 Death Rattle summon. Oh wait, it's Death Rattle. Never mind. I was thinking it's Battle Cry. Never mind. It's Death Rattle. It's not Giggling Inventor. I was just like, how is this just Giggling Inventor? I don't understand. Death Rattle. Okay. Summon 1/2 mechs with Taunt and Divine Shield. So, yeah, definitely much less scary. When I was first looking at this, I'm like, how did they just make that card again? Like, Giggling Inventor was one of the most like randomly weirdly oppressive cards, but especially because you could just shadow step and keep making more things in Rogue, and it was disgusting, you know, if you got like Crystal Core or whatever online. Okay, few. Summon 1/2 mechs with Divine Shield and Taunt, but Death Rattle. So yeah, never mind. This is not really a card that I'm excited about or interested in. It's a cool throwback, but it's not going to break the game. Few. Next up, Joy Mancer Geppetto. An 8-cost 6/6 Battlecry. Get copies of every 1 attack or 1 health minion you've played this game. Crucially, this gets you any miniaturized card. So that's cool. That's powerful. I assume it's anything that has base that rather than like, you know, like it had that when it died or whatever when you played it. Like I think this works with like the Jade statue thing. Because each of them gives the others like +1 for the rest of the game. It works with Astral Automaton, which is obviously pretty disgusting, and it should work with all of them because again they are like a base 1 power that has like an aura effect. So this is a like crazy late game card for an Astral Automaton deck. Not that that's the sort of deck that necessarily needs late game power, because that's kind of exactly what it's built toward. But certainly, like if you know you get your like board poofs by Reno or whatever, it's a great way to rebuild and give you like another huge swarm of unstoppable giant dudes. But obviously, lots of other possible combo potential. That's just where my brain immediately goes with it. Next up is Lena, Shop Manager. Whenever you cast a spell, fill your board with random minions of that cost. This is a weird one. Like it's a 6-cost 3/3 straight up, which is really low impact, really weak. Like you could play it with like, you'd have to like play this and play like, you know, a 4, and then you just get a bunch of 4s. Maybe you shadow step it, and then you play it with a 6, and you get a bunch of 6s. It like this is like certainly a card that I think can do some weird wacky stuff, but does not seem like the sort of card that's likely to be reasonably competitive at like any high level of play. I'm told it's free at least, so lots of people can do mediocre things with this and not have to buy any packs. Next we have Mess Maker. That's you, Oko. You're a mess maker. You poop on the rug in the bathroom. You poop on the shower mat all the time. You make a mess. But yeah, 3 cost, 1/3 life steal taunt. Death Rattle deal 1 damage to all enemies. Eh. You know, like doesn't have a minion type. No way to like improve the effect of its death rattle. Maybe this is like a card that you play in an environment where there's a ton of like 1 health minions around and you don't have any good AoE, but pretty unlikely to I think be a card that sees a lot of play. Next we have Nesting Golem. So this is another like like rot face throwback. 4 cost undead death rattle. Resummon this with -1/-1. So you get a 4/3, then you get a 3/2, then you get a 2/1, and then it's dead. Certainly a an interesting card, like if you're playing against like heavy removal stuff and you care about having multiple undead die, things like that. We've lost a lot of the like if an undead died sort of effects, like the Rubian Vizier is gone, things like that. So I think there's less value in the synergy, but certainly a neat card at least. Next up we have Nostalgic Clown, a 5/5 miniaturize. 5 cost, 6/5 with miniaturize. Battlecry, if you played a higher cost card while holding this, deal 1 damage. So this is kind of corrupted, right? It's nostalgic for the Darkmoon Faire, which is when there were clowns, and that's cool. So it has corrupted, but the miniaturize giving you the 1 cost version that does the same thing. Maybe there's some weird world where you like play this and like just keep shadow stepping the 1/1 version, or the 1 cost version. I guess like you'd have to keep playing other cards that cost at least 1 if you like shadow step the miniaturized version, because like it's not actually corrupted. It doesn't. Did I say something other than 4 damage? I clearly meant 4 damage. Did I say deal 5 damage? Did I say 1 damage? Oh. I'm just getting everything wrong with this card, apparently. 5 cost, 6/5. Miniaturize. Battle Cry. If you've played a higher cost card while holding this, deal 4 damage. See, I got it right. But yeah, I feel like this is, kind of a neat throwback to Corrupt and to Darkmoon Faire, but I don't think it's likely to be powerful enough to justify, actually including a competitive deck. Next up, we have Nostalgic Gnome. 4 cost, 4/4. Miniaturize. Rush. After this minion deals exact lethal damage on your turn, draw a card. So this is clearly the honorable kill from Stormwind. That's why it's a gnome, right? It's got to identify all the callbacks, right? But this could be an interesting card, right? Like if there are a lot of X4s, right? That you can play, attack, draw a card, and then like potentially get the 1/1. It's very easy to do it with the 1, right? Alterac Valley, not Stormwind. There you go. It's Alterac Valley, not Stormwind. But yeah, like I could see a world in which there's like a significant number of like 4 health minions that like 3 or 4 that see play. This is actually good to like be able to kill them and get card advantage, because of the sort of honorable kill trigger and the additional value of the miniaturize. But that's a very specific world. So my guess is it's unlikely to see much play, but it's worth thinking about in like the instance that there's Stonehill Defenders everywhere, because that's back in core, and you're trying to get value, but off your opponent getting value too. Next up, Nostalgic Initiate, a 2/3 with miniaturize for 3. First time you cast a spell, gain +2/+2. So this is like Mana Thirst, right? Or not Mana Thirst. What was it? It was this is from Scholomance. What was it called? What was the mechanic called? It was Spellcraft? Well, I don't remember what it was. Spellburst. Spellburst, that's what it was. Which is the first time you cast a spell, effect. So this is basically, if you play a spell with this, it's like, okay, you have like say you play this and like prep. This is a 3 cost 4/5, right? If you play this alongside like a 0 cost spell, you're getting a Yeti out of it. And then you get a miniaturized version that also gives you, like a like 3/3. So this is one that like in like the right deck, I could actually imagine seeing some amount of play, but it's kind of like post this combo have this effect, but probably not quite good enough, but definitely the sort of thing that like if there's like like just an aggressive like rogue deck with backstabs, preps, whatever, 0 cost things, maybe it's good enough to see play there, but probably not. Next up we have Observer of Mysteries. Battlecry, cast 2 random secrets. At the start of your turn, destroy them. Eh. I mean, I don't know what class this defaults to. If you're playing a class that doesn't have secrets, right? Like, will this cast mage secrets? Will it cast hunter secrets? There's no more rogue secrets and there's no more paladin secrets, right? So will it cast just like 2 random ones from either of them? I don't know, but I think there's only like I think rogue secrets go away and I think paladin secrets are gone. So I think it's just hunter and mage secrets, right? Like there's no more objection. There is exploding rune. This feels like it's probably just not good enough, but it is an interesting card. Next up is Origami Crane, a 4/1 taunt. Battlecry, swap health with another minion. Remember Vol'jin? This is like Vol'jin, except a neutral instead of a legendary. I mean, this could be good, right? Like in a world where there's like a lot of big slash mid range type minions, this could actually be a good card. Um, like if there's like people are playing like the 5/6 for 3, right? In Warlock, this could be good. You can like steal the health of a overstated thing and kill their early guy. This can be like a utility card in like a Master's Call Hunter deck. They play a big taunt and you're like, my hound kills that. So I actually think that this is a card that has like some reasonable options. The beast tag again, making it like viable for like Master's Call Hunter is like a very important element of that potential as well. Next up is Origami Dragon. This is 6 cost Divine Shield Lifesteal Battle Cry, swap stats with another minion. So this is another like, hey, this one's less appealing in my mind. It could be, this could be a tool in like a Dragon Priest deck. It's really only like Priest that has Dragon synergy right now, right? But like could be a way to deal with big minions. It's pretty slow. 6 is like a lot, right? I guess it could go to Druid too. Yeah, Druid does still have the Dragon synergy cards from the most recent year. Like, and this is potentially more appealing in Druid, where like you have fewer tools to deal with a large minion than Priest does. Priest typically has decent like 1-for-1 style removal, whereas this could be a way like hey, you played a big minion against my my Druid deck. Well, actually, I have the big minion and yours is dead. Then we have Origami Frog. It's a 5 cost 1/4 rush stop attack with another minion. So this is basically, hey, kill your guy. It's another beast. So again, maybe you have like Origami Hunter with Master's Call. This one seems less good though. I'd much rather make their minion easier to kill rather than obviously this could rush into it, right? It has 4 health, so it can kill the thing. But it's more expensive. It doesn't give you like as good of a body left behind. So I feel like this is worse than the Crane. So probably less likely to see much play. Next up, we have Playhouse Giant. Cost 1 less for each card you've drawn this game. The mech could be relevant for for Warrior. This is like at its best with like maybe this gets played in like 777's Rogue. Maybe this gets played with like decks with a bunch of tradable. It's certainly obviously a very late game type card. Maybe this gets played in Plot Twist Warlock. Unfortunately, not legal. You can use this with like reshuffle effects like Gatekeeper, things like that, but probably not quite good enough. Maybe you have it with like things that give it rush, taunt. You can magnetize to it, so it is a mech which does matter. But yeah, overall, doesn't seem like it is likely to come online fast enough to really be worth it. Outside of a deck that like is really like somehow doing crazy things to load it up. And get it into play for free / cheap. It really feels like tradable is one of the a deck with a lot of tradable things, like just really like cycling through and getting a bunch of card draws for cheap. Maybe the best place for it, but unlikely to see much play in my mind. Next up, Plucky Paintfin. 3-cost poisonous with Battlecry. Draw a rush minion. Kind of a weird combination of effects. I don't know. draw a minion, draw a rush minion attached to it, and like the body is meaningful, but it dies to weapons. Like it's a 3-cost thing with 3 health. Maybe there's very specific rush minions that you want to tutor, and you're not playing Warrior to play Town Crier. Like maybe you're like drawing your Ziliax off of it or whatever. Certainly, has some potential. Anything that is draw a card and especially like draw a specific category of card is something you can't fully overlook because that sort of tutoring effect is extremely powerful, just broadly speaking. But this is like a combination of ability and stats that are not super impressive in my mind. So you really, really, really need to care about the rush tutor. Next up is Rumble Enthusiast. Have to play the left or rightmost card in your hand, deal 1 damage to a random enemy. So this is like, apparently Rumble Enthusiasts are just demon hunters. It's just like, are you playing outcast cards? Boom! Yeah, seems like even in like an outcast demon hunter deck, it's probably not good enough because 1 damage to a random enemy is not very much. Next up, Scarab Keychain. 1 cost beast, battle card, discover a 2 cost card. This card is just good. This is just like curve guaranteer. Like I think this will just go into like a bunch of decks. Because it's just like 1 cost thing, discover a 2 cost thing. Sure. It's not like this is hardly like, busted, right? Like there's lots of decks that don't really care about hitting the 1 to 2 tempo, but like say you're playing like, Beast Hunter, right? This is a very easy like, beast to play on 1. Like, you get some effect out of it, and then it's like, okay, well you got a thing to play on 2 if you didn't have a thing to play on 2. I think it's just a good card. It's not going to be like an overwhelmingly powerful card. It's not like, crazy, but I think this is just like a solid card that can see play in a lot of different decks that don't necessarily have like great ways to guarantee their own curve. Next up is Sing Along Buddy. 2 cost, 1/4 mech. Your hero power triggers twice. Trueheart, Justicar Trueheart is back, and this can let you like super hero power people multiple times. You can use this. This can go into like the weird Raza combo deck, right? Like you have Raza plus 0 cost hero power thing plus Reno plus this to like nuke people to death much faster. I think this is like, it's not a card that I would imagine seeing play in a lot of decks. Maybe you're just playing like, Face Hunter, and this is just like, okay, if you don't kill this, I'm just getting 4 damage a turn from my hero power. But yeah, pretty solid, like in the decks that want to play it, that's for sure. Next up, we have the Splendiferous Whizbang. This isn't a card that does anything because it just replaces your deck with a Whizbang deck. They haven't revealed like what the Whizbang's decks are, but I imagine that we'll see people playing weird stuff on ladder because they just want a Whizbang. And honestly, I think that the entire concept of Whizbang as something that gives you a widely variable and hopefully very enjoyable play experience for a single legendary is a huge component of Hearthstone being able to like be fun for a free to play player. Because I think a lot of people, they look at like, oh, I want to play Hearthstone, but I'm free to play and I don't have, the ability to put together a bunch of different decks. Whizbang giving you the opportunity to play a bunch of different decks just by himself is like, hey, you want to have like a diverse play experience playing Hearthstone, just craft Whizbang, right? It gives you so many different experiences that are possible just by being Whizbang that like you can just have like if you literally play nothing but Whizbang, you can do like tons and tons of different things and have that as the single legendary card that you have from the entire expansion. You can still have a blast, right? You might not necessarily be competitive because the Whizbang decks are, I assume not like top tier legend capable or anything like that. But it gives you, the ability to do things other than just like, hey, I had to dust all of my collection to build one metagame deck or whatever, which you still don't need to do. There's all the like, returning player rewards and like, free like decks and packs and things like that. But on top of all of that, I love that they brought this back. I think it's a fantastic idea for the game and for especially free to play players. Next up, we have Sweetened Snow Flurry, a 3-cost miniaturize elemental, 3/3, with Battlecry. Get 2 random temporary frost spells. I don't really know what frost spells, like the category of frost spells entails these days, but the miniaturize in this obviously is like a huge element of like making it reasonable because if you're just playing this on turn 3, you're like, I spend 3, I get a 3/3, and then it's like I get 2 things that I definitely can't cast, but I still get a 1/1 for later, or like late in the game I can play this and potentially hit like Blizzard or whatever. We can get Frostbolt, Frostbolt's back in standard now. So yeah, I mean I think this is like obviously not like a great card, but it's not a terrible card either. I think that like I could definitely see like elemental decks that are looking to primarily play elemental chains, but want some additional like potential level of interaction, can play this, get multiple ticks on their elemental chain over turns, and still have access to potential interaction thanks to the temporary frost spells. Next up, we have Tar Slime, a 1-cost 0/3 elemental, crucial again. Taunt has +2 attack during your opponent's turn. So this is just obviously like a Tar Creeper throwback. This is like, hey, do you want to stop your opponent from beating you up with cheap minions? Ta-da! I don't know if it's actually any good, but it is. You need to have some very small minions that this is protecting you against, because it is literally 0 attack. You need, or you need to really care about playing elementals. If you just care about playing elementals, there's obviously Firefly as well. So this is not the top of the line for you, but certainly can help keep you alive and buy you some time to the later game. Next up, we have Treasure Distributor. 1-cost 1/2 pirate. After you summon a pirate, give it +1 attack. This is potentially quite strong in like the aggro pirate rogue, because this is when you summon a pirate. So this can, if you play this with the 6-cost legendary that summons a new pirate whenever you summon a pirate, and it attacks your opponent. If you play this and you summon a pirate, it'll buff that pirate, which will then summon a copy of another pirate, which will then get another buff from Distributor, and hit your opponent's face with the buffed one, and then you just kind of keep going with that chain, and that can do a lot of damage very, very quickly, and burst your opponent down from even a very high life total. So I think this is very likely to be a scary card in pirate rogue in particular. Next up, Wind Up Musician. 6-cost 5/5 battle cry. Deal 1 to all enemy minions. Trade to upgrade. It is still weird to me that these tradable things, which clearly look like mechs, the wind up things, are not mechs. This is like, I guess, if you're playing a deck that really wants some form of AoE and doesn't have it, you could play this. Seems like it's going to be like way too little, way too late with tradable and how expensive it is, but it exists as an option. And next, Workshop Janitor. 5-cost 5/5. If you control a location, draw 2 cards. There are a lot of locations that are quite good these days. And this is reasonable neutral card draw if you're playing a deck that's playing a bunch of locations. Not great by any means, but it is certainly an option if you're playing a deck. I probably wouldn't play this unless I have at least like 3 locations in my deck, or have like enough locations that with like a lot of durability. Like, still feels like you probably want it to be something that is again like a deck that doesn't really have that much card draw to begin with, and specifically is interested in card draw because you have like 3+ locations that are likely to stick around. All right, and our final card, last but certainly not least, Ziliax Deluxe. This is a card that is much like ETC, right? Which kind of gave them the technology of, here's a sideboard style card. This allows you to customize your Ziliax, which is weird because Ziliax is already perfection, so I don't know how you can improve on Ziliax, because you can't do better than Unity, Precision, and Perfection, but I guess we'll try. So the way it works is you choose 2 of these modules. There is the Recursive module, gives your Ziliax Death Rattle, shuffle this into your deck, costs 1. Haywire module, the end of your turn, deal 2 damage or 3 damage to your hero. It is 2, and it gives your Ziliax 4/4. The Pylon module, your other minions have +1/+1, 3-cost 2/2. The Virus module, a 3-cost, gives it Stealth, Elusive, Poisonous, and Reborn, and 1/3. Twin module is 4-cost. Battlecry, summon a copy of this. Ticking module costs 1 less for each minion in play. 4-cost 1/3. Perfect module, the OG, Divine Shield, Taunt, Lifesteal, and Rush. And then the Power module, at the start of your turn, double this minion's attack. So you can have whatever sort of combination of these that you want. Ellie's just like, why are we trying to iterate on perfection? But yeah, so this is there's just like so many different combinations you might want for different decks. There's some very interesting combinations. Like, you could take Haywire module and Perfect module, right? So you have it does 3 damage to your hero, but it has lifesteal, so you gain that life back. You can take Twin module, Recursive module, so you have a 4-cost, or rather 5-cost 4/4 summons a copy, and Death Rattle shuffling your deck, so you just end up with endless Zilliaxes. Just the Zilliax Foundry right there. You can have the other minions of +1/+1 alongside the ticking module. So you basically have a Stormwind champion that is reduced in cost by the number of minions you have. So there's all kinds of interesting possible combinations. You can have double the attack and the stealth thing. So you can have a 5 cost 2/6 that doubles its attack every turn and has stealth and elusive and reborn. So just a wide variety of possible combinations for this Zilliax, and it is a mech, so you can still magnetize on it and do whatever you want. You can bring it back with your Dr. Boom. You can, do all kinds of nifty stuff that gives you maximum perfection for your Zilliax. And it could just be, deals 3 damage to your minion, Death Rattle somebody in your deck, 3 cost 5/5, go, But yeah, I think it's just like a super, super cool design. I don't know if it's good. There's too many things to process. And again, it's all situational for what your deck wants. So it's one of those cards where it's like, okay, do I want to play Zilliax? Maybe. What combination of things does my deck want from Zilliax? So yeah, very, very exciting. Definitely think that there's some really cool stuff that you can possibly do with this. And I'm gonna, love experimenting with Zilliax and all the possible combinations. And clearly, so is Ellie. That's it. That's the last card of the entire set of Whizbang's Workshop. But yes, that is the final card of Whizbang's Workshop. My arm is being cut in half. It's almost as bad as my poor finger. But yeah, like I said at the very beginning, I think it's really cool how many like throwbacks, how many nostalgic callbacks to not only cards but even like moments in the community. There's lots of things that I'm really excited to play with. Definitely going to be starting, I think, with Dragon Priest, and then maybe trying some Dr. Boom Warrior. Lots of really, really, really sweet things that I am absolutely itching to play. I will be playing in Theory Crafting, which, if you're watching this on YouTube, will have already happened, and you'll probably have already seen some of the games from it. But that will give me a chance to share some of my ideas with my decks with you all before the set does go live. Looking forward to playing with Whizbang Workshop when it comes out on the 19th. So if you're watching this live, that is a week and 1 day. If you're watching this on YouTube, who knows? I don't know when this is going to get posted. But anyway, loving the set. Really looking forward to trying out all the new stuff. Let me know what you're looking forward to playing in the comments and what you want to see me play from Whizbang's Workshop. So thanks for watching. Appreciate you all, and I'll see you all again next time.